The cabin stood quiet at the edge of the woods, and Mickey stood just as quiet in front of it, a cigarette between his lips and music filling his ears. When his Discman clicked and went silent, he didn't panic. He simply sat down, swapped out the battery, and let the melody resume. That was Mickey's way. Unhurried, unbothered, always reaching for some small comfort in a world that had long since stopped offering them. He was about to peek inside the cabin when the door burst open. Ben came flying out, eyes wide, voice sharp with urgency. "Run!" From inside came growling, low, wet, and unmistakably wrong. Ben fired a few rounds into the darkness and then ran too, not looking back. The zombie apocalypse had happened about 4 months earlier. Nobody had seen it coming, and very few had survived it. Ben and Mickey were among those few, two former baseball players who had been teammates before the world fell apart, and who now wandered the ruined landscape together without a map, a plan, or much of a destination. Ben had taken to the new world with grim efficiency, swinging his bat with the same precision he'd once used at home plate. Mickey had not taken to it at all. He flinched at every growl, avoided every fight, and spent most of his time with his headphones on, trying to drown out the apocalypse with music. They scavenged for supplies wherever they could find them and rested wherever it seemed safe enough to close their eyes. It wasn't much of a life, but it was the one they had. One afternoon, Mickey scratched open a handful of old lottery cards he'd found in a gas station drawer and let out a whoop. He'd won $1,000. For one shining moment, joy crossed his face like sunlight through a broken window. Ben looked at him flatly. "The lottery doesn't exist anymore." The joy vanished. Ben suggested a game of catch instead. Mickey wasn't interested, but Ben reminded him, with a patience that sometimes bordered on exhaustion, that they were baseball players. It was supposed to mean something. Eventually, Mickey picked up the ball. They found another cabin deeper in the woods. Ben went in first, swept every room, and declared it clear before letting Mickey cross the threshold. There was nothing useful inside, so Ben announced he'd go fishing. Mickey responded by pulling every can of fish out of their bags and lining them up on the table. Ben told him to start a fire. Mickey put on his headphones and walked away. Not long after, Mickey stumbled upon a cluster of zombie bodies in the trees, fresh kills, Ben's work, and spun around in alarm. He'd been told there wouldn't be zombies in the woods. "I said fewer zombies," Ben corrected him, "and so far I've been right." Mickey had no response to that. A few miles down the road, they found an abandoned car. A zombie tumbled out the moment Ben opened the door, and Ben put a bullet through its skull before the thing could take a step. He climbed inside and recoiled at the smell, but the engine turned over. They drove on, windows down, watching the broken world roll past. The radio didn't work, but the road was smooth, and for a while that was enough. One afternoon, Mickey grew quiet in a particular way, the way he did when something was pulling at him from the inside. He'd been thinking about a girl he used to date. He convinced Ben to make a detour to her house. While Ben moved through the rooms, clearing them one by one, Mickey drifted through the girl's belongings. He found her music and played it softly. He found her perfume and held the bottle for a long moment. He found other things too and took them without apology. Ben, meanwhile, found tools in the garage and a pair of walkie-talkies. Mickey found toothbrushes, a small, ridiculous luxury that made both of them feel briefly human again. Afterward, Ben modified the car's backseat, folding it down to create a sleeping space and lining it with sheets and pillows. Mickey stood in the doorway of the house and said he wanted to stay. Ben refused. An argument erupted, the kind that had been building for weeks. Ben reminded Mickey of what had happened the last time they'd stayed in one place. 3 months locked in a house, food running out, meals getting desperate until they were eating dog food. And then the dog. And Mickey's family, they'd stayed too, at the very start, and they hadn't made it out. Mickey insisted they should stay anyway. Ben screamed. They drove on. Mickey spent most of the next stretch with his headphones on, staring out the window. When they came across a field of cows, Ben pulled over and got out without a word. He walked up to the animals and petted them, and for a moment his face opened up into something rare, a smile. Later, Ben asked Mickey if he wanted to play baseball. Mickey didn't hear him. Ben crept up behind him and grabbed his shoulders, roaring like a zombie, and Mickey nearly leaped out of his skin. "Those headphones are going to get you killed," Ben said, once he'd finished laughing. Mickey changed the batteries in the walkie-talkies and handed one to Ben. They tested the range, joking back and forth, when the signal shifted and locked onto something unexpected, another voice. Two of them, actually. A woman named Annie and a man named Frank talking about a camp, grocery runs, movie nights, the mundane architecture of a life that still resembled the old one. Mickey's hand was on the transmit button before he'd fully decided to press it. He introduced himself and Ben, promised they'd work hard, and asked if they could come. The answer came back flat and final: "No vacancies, don't try to find us, stay off this frequency." Mickey kept asking. The voices went silent. He sat with it for a moment, then something inside him cracked open. He ranted about sleeping on dirt, about hunting for every meal, about Ben's smell, about all of it. Ben listened, then pointed out calmly that the people at the camp didn't want them, and there was no use caring about something you couldn't change. For the next several days, Mickey tried the walkie-talkie every chance he got. Ben listened from a distance, putting together the shape of what was happening, and when he was sure, he started laughing. "You've got a crush on a voice," he said. He described his imagined version of Annie, some glamorous action movie type, and then immediately suggested the reality was probably far less impressive. Mickey told him he was the only person he knew who managed to gain weight during the apocalypse. Ben smiled. "I'm also the only person you know, period." They stopped at a motel. Ben waited in the car while Mickey insisted on checking the rooms, on the off chance someone was still alive in one of them. Ben predicted exactly what happened: a room full of zombies and Mickey running for cover while Ben dealt with the situation alone. Afterward, Mickey complained. He said they could have just driven past. He said Ben didn't have to kill every zombie they came across. Ben told him to fight one himself then, reminded him what the zombies had taken from him. Mickey didn't move. Ben went back to work. In the forest, Ben found a waterfall and bellowed with pure joy. Mickey, asleep in the car, was jolted awake by a face at the window, a zombie pressing close against the glass. He grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted for Ben. Then he looked more carefully at the zombie. She was, against all reasonable expectation, quite beautiful. Mickey made a choice that said a great deal about him. He was deeply absorbed in that choice when a gunshot ended it. Ben had returned. He took one look at the situation, started laughing, and walked away to give Mickey a moment to compose himself. They left the car eventually, no gas, no choice. They kept walking, kept finding empty houses. One day they found a building with a real bedroom, and Mickey announced with unusual firmness that they were staying the night and he wouldn't hear otherwise. He began unpacking. His Discman was gone. He found Ben outside making arrows, music playing from the Discman propped beside him. Mickey demanded it back. Ben refused. He explained, plainly and without room for argument, that if Mickey wanted to sleep indoors with limited escape routes, he needed to be alert. Ben was tired of fighting for both of them. He wanted Mickey to wake up. Mickey knocked the arrows off the ground and went inside. At dinner, Ben needled him about the car incident. Mickey ignored him and retreated to the bedroom with the walkie-talkie. He tried Annie one more time, expecting nothing. She answered. She told him she could get in trouble for this. She told him the camp wasn't what he imagined. Mickey said it didn't matter, even a bad camp beat sleeping in a tree. He told her about himself and Ben, how they'd barely known each other before the apocalypse, just two guys on the same team when everything collapsed. Annie listened, then told him he whined too much and hung up. In the living room, Ben was dancing. He heard something strange later that night, went to investigate, handled it, and came back to find Mickey sleeping peacefully through all of it. Ben stood in the doorway for a long time. Then he went to the woods and found the zombie he'd been keeping. He dragged it to Mickey's room, threw the bat on the bed, yelled at Mickey to wake up, and locked the door. What followed was loud, desperate, and very long. When it was finally over, Mickey had killed his first zombie. Ben opened the door and looked at him with something close to pride. Mickey tackled him and hit him several times before walking into the woods. Ben found him there later in the middle of a breakdown. Mickey told him about the conversation with Annie. Ben brought him back to the house, cleaned up the mess, and did what he always did when things got heavy. He played baseball and made stupid voices until Mickey almost smiled. He reminded him Annie was just a voice on a radio. After that, something shifted. Mickey started paying attention. He went fishing without being asked. He took his headphones off so they could talk. When they found an orchard, they ate apples in the sun and played baseball until their arms were sore. One day they came across two abandoned cars. Ben began siphoning gas from one into the other when Mickey noticed something. The engine on the empty car was still warm. The owners were nearby. Ben called out. No answer. He kept working. A man named Jerry stepped out of the trees with a knife at Mickey's throat, demanding the car keys and a ride to Arizona. Ben put his gun up and explained slowly that he didn't have the keys and that he didn't believe Jerry would actually hurt anyone. He asked Jerry what was in Arizona anyway. Jerry's story came out in pieces. He'd spent the winter working for a group, unnamed, unspecified, who'd promised him supplies and safe passage home in spring. They hadn't delivered. He was desperate and running out of options. Ben told him the keys were in the car. Jerry let Mickey go, climbed in, and found nothing. He was still cursing when Ben shot him. The argument with Mickey was still unresolved when another car pulled up. A woman's voice asked them to stay calm, said she'd only come for her vehicle. Everyone agreed to behave. Her people filled the tank. Questions were asked about Jerry. Ben explained. The woman said they'd done the right thing. As she turned to leave, Mickey froze. He recognized the voice. Annie turned around. She shot Ben in the leg, told Mickey she'd warned him, took the car keys and threw them as far as she could into the open field. She told them both that if she saw them again, she'd kill them. Then she left. Mickey searched the field for the keys until it got dark. He didn't find them. Ben couldn't help, couldn't walk. They agreed to rest and look again in the morning. They never got the chance. In the middle of the night, they woke to the sound of shuffling and moaning surrounding the car. A horde, large enough to swallow them whole, closed in from every direction. Mickey ran for it instinctively. Then he looked back and saw Ben, unable to follow. He went back. Days passed inside the car. They covered the windows with sheets to block out the faces. They rationed water down to what they could drain from cans. They argued. They drank. They played every road game either of them could remember. Finally, they agreed. Mickey had to go out and find the keys. He was the one who'd provoked Annie. He was the one who could walk. Mickey climbed through the sunroof. Ben watched him cross the field and waited, smoking in the silence, listening to the endless growling all around the car. He heard Mickey call his name. He opened the sunroof. Mickey's face told him everything before he said a word. He'd been bitten. Both men fell apart in their own way. Mickey admitted he was scared and asked what they were supposed to do now. Ben picked up his gun and asked Mickey to step outside the car. Mickey refused, said he deserved a chance. Ben shot him anyway. He sat with the grief for a long time. Then he sent Annie a message. You did this. If I find you, I'll kill you. He kept surviving in the car. Days blurred together. He thought about how he'd once been trapped in a house for 3 months and told Mickey never again. and now here he was, trapped in a car. One morning, he put on Mickey's headphones. He opened the door and walked out into the road. The horde fell in behind him, a slow and shambling procession, and Ben walked on without looking back, music in his ears, the ruined world stretching out ahead, and nowhere left to be.